welcome to Formula Botanica's Meet the Entrepreneur series. My name is Gemma and I'm Formula Botanica's School Business Manager. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Briena Sash from Wellness Stock Shop. Welcome, Briena.
Hi, Gemma. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So I thought we'd start with talking a bit about Wellness Stock Shop and why you set it up and what your inspiration was behind the business.
Sure. So Wellness Stock Shop is, to my understanding, the first ever wellness-specific stock photography source. So it's really designed for small business owners who own wellness businesses. And my inspiration for creating it was really in just trying to pair my skill as a photographer with my passion and what I really truly believe in and stand for, which is really based in natural, sustainable living. And I had originally been working as a portrait photographer, but I didn't have the connection there. And even though my imagery was really doing well, it was winning awards, getting published in national publications and international magazines, I just didn't have that connection. And so I was always constantly searching for how could I bring more purpose into my work. And I was working with many small business owners, and wellness business owners just sort of gravitated towards me. So I was creating a lot of branding imagery for them. And this was massage therapists and essential oils advocates, health coaches, organic skincare businesses. And so in the process of creating the branding imagery for them, I would actually do research, and I would kind of check around at the local businesses in the area to see what their competition was, how could we differentiate them and create a different look for them, get some inspiration. And what I was finding was that I was actually shocked by how terrible the imagery was for these small businesses. And I started doing more research for my clients and seeing what were they using, because when I'm creating custom branding imagery for one photo shoot, you don't end up getting enough imagery to really use throughout the year. So they needed a source of imagery to really supplement all the imagery that we created so that they could have imagery to really post and promote their business daily. And so what I was finding was my clients were just getting online and finding free photos to download, and most of them were really the typical stale stock photography that I'm sure you probably have an image in your head of that really serene looking woman laying on a massage table with that very peaceful look on her face that no one can really relate to because it's so overly fake. And so what was happening was they were trying to create a strong brand, but their imagery was very inconsistent. It was not cohesive, and it wasn't sending the right messages to their audience. And it wasn't really letting their audience know what a wonderful professional service that they had to offer. And so I was trying to figure out, how could I offer more imagery to my clients? How could I really support them and help them to really create a strong presence in a very oversaturated market? And that's where I came up with the idea for Wellness Stock Shop. It's a way for me to create beautiful imagery and offer it to the people that I really truly believe in. We really connect with our values and what our purpose is and what we're trying to achieve on a daily basis. And so it's a way for me to be able to offer my work to them, to these small business owners, at an affordable rate so that they have imagery that they can really use to promote their business year round.
That all sounds amazing. And I know that our students often ask us about photography and photos and branding. So that leads me to my next question about, why are good quality photos so important for small businesses, and what can good photos and imagery do to really elevate a brand?
Mm-hmm. It's really a great question, because I actually see so many entrepreneurs, small business owners who really don't understand how important and how essential quality imagery is for their business. And it's a huge mistake that I see so many business owners making, is that they wait, they don't invest in quality imagery because they think it's not essential at the very get-go of your business. And it really is, because imagery really sends messages instantly to your viewers. And the message that you want to be relaying is that you are quality, you offer a quality product or service, you're trustworthy, and that you're a really good choice for them, that you are worthy of their investment. And especially for small business owners that are just starting out, it's so important that we get that message across and are very strong with that from the very get-go, because we need to let our ideal audience know that we are the best choice for them. And it's really interesting, because there are so many big businesses that have really big budgets, and they've already made headway, they've already gotten the attraction, and they've established themselves. So all of our audience, our ideal audience that we really want to reach, already see these other big businesses. They've already invested in them. So why should they invest in us? We really have to give them a good, strong reason to do so. So imagery from the get-go, quality imagery can really intrigue your viewers, attract the attention, and help them to make the decision to look into what we do and become interested in what we do. And imagery also is amazing at creating emotion. And with branding, that's a huge part of what we're trying to do. We're trying to create an emotional connection with our viewers. We're really trying to create a world that they want to become a part of, and that's what imagery does. People are so visual, and they really do judge a book by its cover. And so I really like to think about it as, and if we're going into a job interview, how would we show up? How would we appear? What clothes would we wear? How would we style our hair and our makeup? And how would we present ourselves? How would we be talking? Everything we do in this meeting is really sending messages to the person who's interviewing us. And so it's so important that we invest in ourselves, invest in the clothing that we're wearing. All of our physical appearance is so important to really gain the trust and the credibility.
Yeah, those are really, really important points. And I think that so many people, like you mentioned, will just take stock photos off the internet that are very samey and are not conveying exactly who they are and attracting in their target audience. So I think that's a really important point. I know that you've worked on branding before too, and you touched on branding a minute ago. What do you think are the three biggest sort of pitfalls or issues for new brands, and good ways perhaps that people could work around them, especially if they're small businesses on a tight budget that don't have a lot of experience with branding perhaps?
Yeah, so there's so much that goes into this, so it's hard to know where to start. Really, when I'm working with new clients, I hear a lot from them that many of them have tried hiring a graphic designer in the past or someone to design their logo. And in many cases, they ended up being very unhappy with the logo, unhappy with the designs, or even their graphic designer has said, I'm sorry, I don't know what it is, what your direction is in this. I'm not sure. I don't think we're a good match. And what I'm finding is that I actually had the same issue before I started learning about branding. In my past business, I didn't really understand what branding was truly about and what the root of branding was. And it's the same issue that my clients have over and over again, which is that they are not clear at the very root of their branding, and that is what their niche is, who it is that they are specifically trying to serve, and what specifically they're offering to these people. I didn't understand when I was starting out that is something that people are telling you. You hear business gurus telling you this over and over. Get very clear about your niche. And it turns out that it affects everything you do in your business. And so the case with my clients, they would get ahead of themselves and try to create their logo and try to create their branding and establish some sort of visuals, but they didn't really understand who they were trying to attract or what the message was that they were trying to send to them. And so when you're trying to work with professional graphic designers and branders, they couldn't really get clear on a consistent message. And so it was just all getting very confusing. And it's the same thing that happens when you're inconsistent or non-consistent with your branding elements with your audience. They're getting really confused if you don't have a clear message. So number one, most important thing that I would recommend is that you get absolutely crystal clear on your niche. Who is it, the one person that you want to be serving, and what is the number one thing that you know without a doubt that you can help them with and get results with. It's really, if you're getting confused with your branding elements and you're thinking, well, you know, I like soft tones and I like bright, vibrant tones, and I kind of want an edgy look, but I also want a soft look. You know, you're going back and forth. It usually is a sign that you're not entirely crystal clear on your niche. So that's absolutely the first thing that I would recommend. When you get clear on that, then it's much easier to understand, okay, this is the person I'm trying to attract. This is the message I'm trying to send to them. And so this is the sort of look that I can pull together that we're really going to connect with, and that's really going to relay my values, and that's going to attract them. So number one, get crystal clear on your niche before you start designing any of your branding elements. Also, just being inconsistent. I see a lot of small businesses going back and forth and choosing new colors every time they go to design some visual aspect for their business, a flyer or an announcement. They choose new logos every time, fonts. They choose new fonts every time. They choose new colors every time. So they're just really wishy-washy and back and forth. And again, this goes back to really getting clear on your niche, who it is you're trying to attract, and really creating a really strong, streamlined, consistent message all around. So really what I would recommend on how to fix that is to take the time to sit down after you're really crystal clear with your niche to really work on your branding elements, pulling those together. Even if you know that in the future you're going to be hiring a professional branding artist, you can still right now take the time to just choose some specific elements that you're going to use every time, so that you don't have 10 different fonts across your website and new fonts every time you go to design. It's also going to save you a lot of time when you already know which fonts you're going to use, which colors you're going to use, what's the look of your imagery that you want to be putting out there. So that would be my second suggestion. And then third, I would say that assuming that branding is not important is a huge issue with small businesses and new businesses. And there are actually some people out there who are saying that don't worry about your branding, it doesn't really matter. But it really, really, truly does matter, because your branding is really what represents you. Just like I said, gave the example of going into an interview, it's what's going to send the instant messages and signals to your audience, and that's what they're going to make judgments on to decide whether or not they want to work with you, whether or not they trust you and they want to invest in you. And I really like to also think of especially imagery as if you think about a restaurant, people are so picky with food. And so this is a really good example to use when you are researching a restaurant. If you're going traveling and you want to find a new restaurant to go to, really you make snap judgments based on the images of their food, right? So if you see a restaurant and online they have just snapshots taken with their iPhone, and it's really blurry and the food looks mushy and dark and kind of an orange hue, you're going to be kind of frightened a little bit. And I don't think that you're going to actually consider going to their restaurant and testing out their food, because why would you, when down the street there's another restaurant that has beautiful imagery, bright lighting, clear verbiage about what they offer. They offer, organically grown local produce made into beautiful Italian meals, So it's really, really important from the very, very get-go that all of your branding is really beautiful and that it really sends the message that you want to really be sending to your audience.
So I would say, to summarize what you've just said, find your niche, really do the market research, find out exactly who you're targeting, who your target customer is, what appeals to them in terms of branding and imagery. Then sit down and really focus on maybe getting together some sort of creative pack where you have your colors that you use, you have your fonts that you use, so that you're consistent all the time. Because I'm assuming that would be easier to work with a branding expert or a graphic designer if you have, everything exactly, you're able to convey to them exactly what you're trying to want them to do. And then to, I guess, invest and realize the importance of branding and imagery from the very get-go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get it right from the start, it will serve you for the rest of your time in business, really. I guess if you get your logo done, your fonts, your colors.
Yeah, I think, the biggest mistake that I hear from a lot of startups is that, I'm going to invest in that once things get off the ground. And the problem is that, again, your visuals, your presence that's what people are making snap judgments on. And so if you're waiting to create beautiful branding that really sends a strong message about the quality of your service and what you're about, chances are that's going to be one of the top things that is holding your business back from getting off of the ground in the first place. So, I would highly recommend any of your viewers, any of your students, go and test themselves on that. Just be very conscious and aware when they're going to look for a new service, a new product. What are they making judgments on when they're actually going to choose a new product or a new business? They're really going to make judgments off of, okay, what does it look like? Is this something that I can relate to? Does it seem like they share the same sort of values? I know that when I'm going to look for a new product, a new skincare product, I want it to be organic. I want it to be basically food grade, because what I put on my skin is going to be absorbed into my body, and I want to know that it's ethically sourced. These are things that I really value, and how I'm going to know and choose is usually by the visuals and the branding. It's the business is sending me messages. This is what I'm about.
Exactly. I think that could be a really interesting exercise for people who are trying to launch or going to launch their skincare business, to do an exercise like that, where they go out and they look at brands, or they think about brands that they have chosen before and how they've judged them, because it probably could give them an insight into how they could carve their niche or mold their branding strategy so that they can get and attract the people that they're looking for, and retain loyalty, which I think you touched on earlier, that the big brands often have a core loyal amount of people because they've built their brand steadily and they've invested in the imagery and the message. So I guess it's interesting for small businesses to try and do that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's also really important to match the price point of your product as well. That's something that I don't think that I touched on enough, is that if you think you go and you find a product that's just in some cheap plastic packaging that has just kind of magic marker scribbled on it to say what it is, you wouldn't expect to pay, invest a good amount of money in that product, because you're thinking, oh, it's not from a professional company. It's just kind of slapped together. They haven't invested a lot in themselves, so I'm sure I'm not going to be paying much for this product. Whereas if it's in a beautiful glass jar with just beautiful labeling and printing and just gorgeous branding, then you would expect to pay more. There's an interesting thing that happens with people psychologically with the perceived value based on the looks, how it's packaged, how it's put together and presented.
Interesting. Lots to think about.
Yeah.
So, as you know, we often work with small artisan producers and skincare entrepreneurs who have very tight budgets. So what would your top tips be for brands who are starting out on their branding journey?
So, again, I would say the work is really going to start with you getting really clear. I can't stress enough how important it is to first get clear on your niche, because I see a lot of people just jumping the gun and just investing a lot in their branding and just sinking money into that, especially into a logo. A lot of people have the misperception that a logo is your brand, and it's really not. And so I think that a lot of times what happens is that you'll get really excited about investing in your business, and you'll go and hire someone to create your branding, and you're sinking money in that. But then you realize later, oh wait, I kind of created this as a shot in the dark, and it doesn't at all suit my message or attract the clients that I want to be attracting. So first, start with you. Really, really place so much importance on getting crystal clear as to what specifically you are offering and who specifically you want to attract, because it's really ultimately going to save you so much time and so much money when you get clear on that from the get-go. And then I would say there is so much that you can do in terms of choosing branding elements on your own. So I would say you definitely are going to need to invest some in your branding. It doesn't mean that you have to completely drain your bank account or go into debt, but you will want to invest in a certain amount in terms of the visual elements that you may not be very good at. And from the get-go, you can choose your own fonts and you can choose your own colors, and that's okay. And you can save a portion of the branding to really hire someone to create a full package for you in the future. But at the very beginning, at least invest in certain things that you don't know how to create yourself. So for instance, since I am a photographer, it's easy for me to say for photography, if you are not a photographer, rather than taking photos with your iPhone or, just piecing together imagery for free online, invest in some photos. And this doesn't mean that you have to, again, invest thousands and thousands of dollars, but you should definitely tap into the resources that have been created by other entrepreneurs who are professionals at what they do for entrepreneurs like you. So it's just like Wellness Stock Shop. I created it as a resource for small business owners to tap into so that it's affordable and you still have beautiful professional imagery to brand and market your business. There are other resources like that as well for instance, figuring out your copy and figuring out fonts and stuff like that. So I actually love to just get online, and I've done a lot of research for how to do font pairing and stuff like that. And I'm actually creating a series of branding videos for small business owners so that it kind of creates a step-by-step process so you know exactly which elements need to be in place for your branding. And I've got really great free resources in there for you to tap into. So one of them, I just want to share an example, is for your fonts, Google Fonts is really the best way to go because it is the best for translating across the website and also in print. They're free fonts. And so you can just go and tap into that. So you don't have to pay hundreds of dollars or even thousands of dollars on really fancy fonts. Maybe you have your heart set on finding a font that's really specific for you and is really fancy and it's going to cost hundreds of dollars. But for now, just choose something that looks professional and is going to carry you through until you get to that point. So you can actually look online for font pairing, and you can find professionally paired fonts for Google Fonts that you can just, they're already professionally paired. You don't have to worry about sinking all the time into it, and then, you know, it just doesn't end up looking cohesive or it doesn't look really nice together. You can tap into resources that are online that are already paired, they're already professional, they're free, or they're really affordable. So I would say really just tap into that sort of stuff so that you're not completely doing it all alone. You have a little bit of help, but you're still not, you know, going into debt trying to afford someone to put it all together for you. I would say those are my top tips for someone who's starting out. Really just making sure that you're not doing it all by yourself, but you're prepared to invest some to get it to the point where it's presentable and it's professional and it's worthy of investment.
So I guess play to your strengths, and your skill set. So if you know you can do certain things well, do those, and then invest money in, say, a photographer, or, you know, where your skill set doesn't lie, so that, you know, everything complements each other.
Absolutely. It's really, again, going back to the interview, if you know, how you show up at your interview. If you've never touched a sewing machine in your life, you probably wouldn't decide to sew your own outfit to show up for the interview. It might look like a toddler sewed your outfit and it just wouldn't look so nice. So you want to make sure that everything at least is to a professional level, a professional standard. So really definitely sit with yourself, really dive in and understand where your weaknesses are so that you can get help in those areas. And that's something that for me has been so helpful with growing my business in many different ways. When I was starting out with my branding, I didn't know what I was doing, and I hired a professional to help me. And I was in the same boat where I wasn't clear on my niche or exactly where I was going. And so things just were kind of scattered and fell apart. And I started really researching branding and started to really understand the importance of all these elements, pulling them together. And then I ended up creating all of my branding from scratch. And not only that, but I moved on to actually help other clients with their branding as well, and helping them create beautiful branding. And it makes such a huge difference when you go from a business or a website that's just kind of, it looks like a DIY website. Doesn't matter how amazing your product is or your service is, people are going to look at that website. You can tell without a doubt that it was just a DIY website, and they're going to make judgments that the service or the product is not worthy of investment, or that it's a non-professional service or product. So really just do it. Invest in yourself. It's such a worthy investment to get yourself to the point of being noticed and being able to attract the right sorts of clients, and to really send the message that your product is quality and worthy of the investment that you're asking for.
Those are really, really interesting points. And I know that our students will be really interested, as we get so many questions about branding and marketing and imagery. So I wanted to say thank you so much for joining us. And to our students, if you haven't been on to Wellness Stock Shop yet, then I recommend that you go and check it out, wellnessstockshop.com. I'm really looking forward to Briena's video series, and we'll signpost you to that when it's released. And we're also hoping to have a webinar together later in the year where you will be able to ask her branding questions directly. So for now, it's goodbye from us. And if you are watching this video anywhere else other than the Formula Botanica blog, then we recommend you head over to formulabotanica.com and sign up for our newsletter and our free sample class. Thank you, everyone. Bye.